Welcome to episode 104 of Project Geekology. I am one and a half of your host, Anthony, and joining me this week to discuss the movie War of the Rohirrim is...
Dakota. We're ready to muster the Rohirrim, and, coming in from the shadows, once again, we have a special guest.
Rich. Thanks for having me on again, guys. Really happy to be here. Looking forward to talk about the War of the Rohirrim and my personal war against the movie lords, not the horse lords.
Okay, I like that. I like that. So if you guys are unaware, there was a Lord of the Rings movie in theaters this past weekend. I don't know if it's still in theaters. I think it still might be in some places, but it wasn't highly advertised. So if you knew, you knew. If you didn't, you probably will see it on Netflix at some point or something. So, or no, it would be on Max,
Yeah.
right? Yeah, because they have all the Warner Brothers stuff. So, yeah, War of the Rohirrim. I have never seen a trailer for this. I've seen, some concept art leading up to it. I knew it was going to be an animated film. I was not ready for what I received just because I basically didn't know anything going into this. So I knew that Helm Hammerhand had a part to play. I knew there was going to be a lead female character. And I knew that it was animated. And I knew that it was connected in some way tangentially to the Peter Jackson side of the Lord of the Rings franchise. So I was really not anticipating all that much just because I was going in completely open-minded. I didn't watch any trailers or anything like that. So I was pleasantly surprised. What about you guys?
Well, I actually got targeted emails. I don't know how exactly. I mean, obviously everything just listens to us. So
specifically from Peter Jackson. Hey, you better watch. Better watch this movie.
It was really weird. I was just, and then Elijah Wood. Like, these guys were personally emailing me, and no, but I did see they were sending. Like, I think the way I found out about it, maybe it's Fandango following my movie algorithm. I can't,
sure,
but I actually think it was straight from Warner Brothers. But anywho, I got emails about it a couple months ago. Like, I started seeing information about it, and I saw the art style, and I've been trying to get my son into Lord of the Rings. We did the full eating while watching all of the extended versions, and he's now currently in the middle of reading The Hobbit with my wife at night before bed. So I kind of felt the zeitgeist was present in the house, and when I saw the animation style, he's a sucker for anything anime. It doesn't matter what it is. If it looks like it's the anime style slightly, he'll stop and watch it. And I thought that I could kind of reel him in. And that's essentially what happened. When I showed him the trailer, he saw the art style, and, he started to ask questions. Oh, those are the guys, that's Theoden's people. And I cried a happy tear inside because I knew I was a good father.
Beautiful. Anthony, what about you?
So,
did you, what was your, thoughts going into this movie?
So, I've known about this movie for a while now. I had seen trailers on it, I think when they first announced it, a while back. So, I mean, I was psyched. I mean, I like anime, and, I love Lord of the Rings, so really the marriage of both of those was definitely going to pique my interest. I knew, a little bit about the story, obviously not too much, just whatever the trailer showed, but I was still, pretty psyched to go into it. I mean, obviously the audience didn't get to see, but I hopped onto the Zoom call with the Helm Hammerhand Warhammer and the Stein that you could get at the movie theaters.
Yeah, the Warhammer is literally this big popcorn bucket.
Yeah.
That, the Warhammer side opens up, and you could just, stuff a bunch of popcorn or whatever in there. And the sign looks pretty cool, too. It says War of the Rohirrim on it. While we're still with you, Anthony, before we really jump into the gist of our discussion today on War of the Rohirrim, what have you been up to this past week?
Absolutely nothing, man. Absolutely nothing. I don't even think I saw the movie. That's how much I wasn't doing anything.
I still have not seen the movie myself. I have not seen any trailers. I still know that there's a female lead. I still know it's animated, and I still know Helm Hammerhand's in it, but I haven't gotten the chance to see it. So this will be a discussion by you guys, and I'm going to be interviewing you to get all the information about the movie as I can. Go ahead. Sorry.
So I feel like I had a pretty good weekend. I had a long weekend. I used the last bit of my PTO for the year, so I was off from Friday up until Monday.
Gotta use it before you lose it.
Yeah,
bro.
absolutely. So that's why I was using it. So yeah, no, I had like a nice weekend. I went to go see War of the Rohirrim on Friday, and on Sunday I went to my buddy's game shop. It's called Otaku Comics and Games. So any of you that are listening that are in the South Florida region, they're in the Cutler Bay area. They had the voice actor for Crocodile from One Piece and All for One from My Hero Academia and Lord Death from Soul Eater, and just like so many more voices. He was actually there. He spent a few hours there signing autographs and meeting people. Very, very cool guy. It was really interesting to meet a voice actor or like any kind of celebrity in a small shop, because it's a little bit more intimate than like a giant convention center. You know, there's like so much, you're getting like sensory overload in a convention center, whereas you're in like a small like shop. You know, there's maybe, at least when I got there was probably like 15 people in there, you know. So you're going from like hundreds and thousands of people to like 15 people. It's a lot more manageable. So it was really cool to meet somebody in that kind of environment.
Very cool. Very cool.
Yeah.
You do anything else? You play the Overwatch / Avatar update?
I have not. I want to. I've seen the skins. They did, dude. They went all out for the skins.
They actually look amazing.
They look amazing, and when you use some of the abilities, it like plays like music from the avatar.
Oh man.
Yeah,
cool.
it's really cool. The highlight intros and all that stuff. It looks amazing. I actually want to hop on and play that. I've been playing a lot of Marvel Rivals. I would say like there's a handful of characters that I've definitely gotten really comfortable with, that I'm starting to form my like play style in the game. I've been playing a lot of Cloak and Dagger, Penny Parker. Dude, Penny Parker is like so fun.
Yeah?
Yeah. She's a tank character. For any of you that don't know who Penny Parker is, it's this like 14-year-old girl that fights in a mecha suit that's like powered by a spider. So it's really cool. Like she has like these like mines that she shoots out. She has like these like cannons that shoot and stuff. It's really, really fun.
If you've listened, or excuse me, if you've watched Into the Spider-Verse, she's one of the spider variant characters that is pretty prominent in that movie.
Right. So she's a really fun character. I've also messed around with a bit of Moon Knight and some of the other like tanks, like the Hulk. I've messed around with Thor a little bit. Venom's really fun. Yeah. I've been really enjoying Marvel Rivals. So, but yeah, no, I want to hop back onto Overwatch and mess around with those, with the Avatar update. I mean, I definitely want to get those skins because, like, dude,
they're gorgeous.
Phenomenal.
They really are cool.
They did really good with the My Hero Academia ones too.
Yeah.
Yeah, cool. They did really good with those too. So, but yeah, what have you been up to, Dakota?
Dakota has been up to
nothing.
No, I have been up to stuff. I feel like I say the same crap every week. I'm gonna jump away from my Avatar timeline script, which I have been writing. You know, it's nearing 9,000 words. I'm in the era of Avatar's Sito now, the Avatar right before Yang Chen. So I'm getting into the era of like the canon novels that exist in the series, and that'll be a fun change of pace for me, because up until this point it's been trying to take disparate information from all the different source materials to kind of come up with a history for this world, and now I'm finally into like the actual lives of the Avatar. And by the time I get to Yang Chen, which is a pretty understood character, I guess you could say, in the Avatar world, it'll be a little bit easier for me and less conjecture. But other than that, I've been really into Skeleton Crew. This past week's episode was much better than I thought last week's was. But overall, I haven't been doing all that much because I've been working on the house that I'm eventually going to be moving into. This past weekend, as well as yesterday, I spent a good portion of it like doing the flooring, you know, like getting all the flooring in, and that's draining, dude. I'm exhausted, but yeah, nothing crazy. I watched the first episode of the Netflix show The Dragon Prince. I saw a lot of people online saying that if you liked Avatar, you liked Arcane or Ruby, this is a show that you would be into.
Oh, all three of those I like.
Yeah, so all three of those definitely. This show Dragon Prince, it's been on for 5 seasons. The 6th and final season is coming out soon, but yeah, I was really surprised. Like it very much feels like a mix of all three of those things. So I'm excited to jump into that a little bit more. I literally have only watched an episode, so I can't, determine whether it's good or bad, but I'm having fun so far.
Yeah.
The voice actor for Sokka, Jack DeSena, is one of the main characters.
Oh, nice.
So he's got such a pleasant voice. I love that. But
yeah, I loved him in Avatar.
yeah, other than that, not all that much.
There's that Amazon Prime show that I want to hop into that's gotten like really high praise called Secret Level, and it's like an anthology series, and it takes like different video games.
Oh, I saw that. It looked really good.
Yeah. They have a Dungeons and Dragons episode. They have a Pac-Man episode, Armored Core, Mega Man. They have like different episodes, and like it's been highly praised that it got renewed for a second season.
Excellent.
Yeah,
Excellent.
yeah. I really want to hop into that. Dude, I always like stack up my list high of things I want to watch, but man, it's hard to watch things and then be a gamer.
I 100% understand that. Rich, let's jump over to you. What have you been up to this past week?
Just as the kids say, I'm locked in my coaching era. So just doing that a lot with the
right.
track. I mean, it's just it's like I'm not even a teacher anymore. I'm just a coach, like I just teach on the side. It's just weird. This will lead into the meat and potatoes of what we're going to talk about this week. I think the biggest thing that happened was, my son turned 10 last week. So double digits is a big deal. So we took a father and son day on Friday, and we went to go see War of the Rohirrim at 10:50. It was the only IMAX showing in my area. So I was very enthused. We got there pretty early. It was great to see the theater layout on Fandango that showed that there were maybe going to be 8 other people there. So we knew that we were going to get some good private seating. And we get there, and it's not what I thought, at first. The theater was a little janky, even though it's a pretty big Regal theater. But the IMAX theater itself was just not, like, for some reason, all the other showings and standard had the recliner seats, but this theater didn't have recliner seats. Just a little thing, but I go, no big deal. So we sit down, we're watching the commercials before the previews, but there's like a giant light on and it's not centered in the room right. So it's just like blinding the left side of the screen for us. But, I figured when the lights go off, it won't be a problem. You got to make concessions, right, guys? So then the previews start, right? And then they end. And then there are 4 minutes of darkness and silence. And at this point, there are only 2 other people in the theater. So there's just 4 awkward minutes of us sitting there, Charlie whispering to me what's going on. I'm like, I don't know. Suddenly, when I feel like I'm kind of mustering the courage to possibly go politely point out that the movie's not playing, the previews start again. So, although not my favorite idea to have to watch these again, I did. And then it stops during the last preview, which was the Minecraft preview. Then somebody else comes up with a phone flashlight and goes, whoa, it's dark in here. It's apparently the last group that had been missing. They finally get upstairs, and by the time they sit down, then the theater people come in and they say, guys, we can't get into work today. So
what the heck? So you didn't actually get to see it in IMAX?
Hold on. They offer us passes. Well, I didn't get to see it in IMAX. They offer us, they go, you can come back another day or you can go see another movie. And I quickly look at my phone and I go, just to point out that they're actually showing this at 11:40. So everybody else who's in the theater is like, wait, that's what we want to do too. Like, we don't want to go home now. So we finally go to the other theater because, mind you, it was a 10:50 showing. So it's now 11:37 when I bring this up. So we mosey onto the other theater, have the great joy of watching for the 3rd time the previews, which made me hate. I don't want to see any of those movies. I'm not sure if Jen told you this, I hyper analyzed the trailer for the Mark Wahlberg movie because he has a backwards hat on and he has hair. Okay. And then like a couple scenes later, he's in the same helicopter. It's the same time, but now I guess his hat's been knocked off and now he's bald. And then they show like a little picture of who the pilot's supposed to be, and the pilot's bald. So I don't understand something. You're some sort of mafia hitman. You take the pilot out so that you can commandeer this vessel, but before you do this, you decide to make yourself look less like the actual pilot of the plane by giving yourself more hair, but that only goes under your backwards baseball cap? Like, I don't, there's so many questions. If you're going to go to the trouble of wearing a wig, why would you have the backward baseball cap on? You show those lovely locks off. Like, none of it makes sense. And it's all because I had to watch this stuff 3 times. Sorry.
All right. Well, no, it's okay.
No,
wow,
I would say that like it was awful to like have to sit through all of those trailers. Dude, it was like 30 minutes worth of trailers. I was like, what's happening? I was like, and I was like, okay, I was sure like 20 minutes later, I'm like, surely the movie's going to start. No, there's another trailer. I'm like, what is going on? Why am I watching so many trailers? Usually the trailers are like 15 minutes. Mm-hmm. Like, you know, usually 15 minutes, 20 minutes stretching it. But like, dude, this was like 30 or so minutes of trailers. I'm like, what is going on right now? This is ridiculous.
I mean, I didn't get home. Yeah. I'm not joking. I only lived 15 minutes from the theater. 15 minutes to the theater, then the whole debacle. Then I went to a store to get chicken nuggets and go home. All right. I left my house at about 10:15 for a 10:50 showing. I got home at like 3:15.
My God.
I basically went to Mordor myself. And I didn't even have a horse.
But you came back with chicken wings.
Well, yes, of course.
You came back home on Eagleback.
And strawberries. Because I remember the taste of strawberries.
Beautiful. That's gorgeous. I had another, not as of annoying an experience as you, but kind of a mildly scary one, because I didn't get tickets for Friday and I didn't get tickets for Saturday, so I got tickets for Sunday. And you know, we get to the theater, we print out our tickets, we get to our seat. We're in an empty theater at this point, and the trailers don't start. The movie was for 7:10. Yeah, the movie was for 7:10, and 7:10 comes, and you know they're still playing commercials for just random products. You know, buy more Coca-Cola, buy some chips from our snack stand. Hi, I'm Maria Menounos. Blah blah blah, stuff like that. It kept popping up, and I was just like, "What's going on? Why are they like that?" And I was thinking to myself, like, man, the theater chain must be like doing really poorly. And it was a Sunday night. There was nobody else in the entire movie theater, like, chain. It wasn't just that room. It was like there was like 2 guys at the desk, and then there was 1 guy at a bar, and that was the only other people I saw in the entire like movie theater place. But I started freaking out. I'm like, what's going on? So I look at my movie time, and it says that it's 7:10, but nothing's happening. It's nearing 7:20. It's still playing commercials. And then I look at the day that the movie plays, and I went on Sunday, but I apparently bought tickets for Monday at 7:10.
Classic Dakota.
So I'm just like, oh no.
But how did you get into the seat? Yeah.
Nobody was looking. No, there was 1 guy saying, like, if you bought tickets online, just print them out right there and walk in. I was like, cool. So I ended up like kind of like, I didn't want to like, out myself and say that I don't have actual tickets for today, but I like kind of like, moseyed on over to like the the showings, and I realized, oh, okay, in the very same theater that I'm in, it's going to start in 5 minutes. And so I was very lucky because we didn't have to change seats or anything like that. But yeah, I debated going back a second time on Monday because I had the tickets. I had bought those tickets. So
not Dakota, like see like that. I've never seen anybody do a twofer in that kind of way. Usually they watch a movie, then they go to another theater. I've never heard of anybody buying tickets for the day after seeing the movie.
I did not end up going Monday, but yeah, I could have.
Dude, that's wild. And it's crazy. And like, they would have been none the wiser.
No, they would have been like, this checks out. Perfect. Great. Sit down.
It's like, do you have tickets? You just flash it up. Don't even look at it. Dude, that's hilarious. But at least you got to see it.
I got to see it. And you know what? We're almost 24 minutes into our recording. Let's actually talk about this movie, guys. Yeah.
Alrighty. Yeah. No. Let's go.
Yeah. So I want to ask you guys initial opinions about the movie within the first 5 to 10 minutes. Like before we even got like the title reveal of War of the Rohirrim. Like what, like when it first started, what were your emotions? What were you thinking at that point? We have like eagles showing up.
Yeah.
We have
Dude, like I was honestly like pretty blown away with the animation. They were playing the theme of Rohan. I was like really like I just thought everything looked good. The landscape looked amazing. It was really really cool to see like the eagles and the scale of them. I mean, yeah, like for me, I enjoyed it. Those first few minutes, they were really like trying to place you within Middle Earth, especially with that score, you know?
yes, the score, and also well before we forget, Howard Shore actually did provide the score for this movie. So
Oh, yeah.
thought that was cool. The OG came back. Rich, what are your thoughts on like the early parts of the movie?
Oh, I'm just immediate. My bowl was full with member berries. Just the nostalgia was great. The music, I don't have the music for many movies downloaded. Nowadays we have many more songs that are tied to a movie that are already famous or whatever. But
Sure.
in terms of like original music for a movie, I rarely, except for like Snakes on a Plane, which was just a classic. This is the only one that I would say is a mostly instrumental, movie score that I'm an old head, so I don't have it on Apple Music, guys. All right. No, I bought the CD, I ripped it into an MP3 on my computer, and then I downloaded it to my phone, and I have it forever, for perpetuity.
Beautiful.
And the Rohan song, the Battle of Helm's Deep, those are some of my favorite scores.
Yeah.
So I just immediately got excited. I was thinking in my head, like, where was Gondor when the Westfold fell? All that stuff was pumping through me. I always felt like Rohan, as a powerful area, was always depicted as, granted, lots of rolling hills and all that, right? But it always felt small to me. I didn't feel like it was a large settlement. It always felt kind of minuscule to me. And I felt like the beginning of this movie really did a good job of establishing a larger grandeur of it. I mean, even just the eagles, how massive they are in comparison. I just thought that it really presented Rohan it makes me wonder, like, what's going on with Rohan when we get there in Lord of the Rings, right? Like, there's kind of a dwindling nature to not just the amount of people, but the establishments, their settlements.
You touched on a lot that I actually do want to touch on throughout our discussion, so we're going to circle back to some of that. I just want to mention my first thoughts going into it, because unlike you two, I was not happy with the first couple minutes of the movie. I thought it was really weird. The animation style, it wasn't gelling with me at all for a good portion of it. And I think the reason was because the background, which was all like kind of like CGI matte paintings and landscapes, was a clear 24 frames per second. It was very fluid, everything was moving nicely, but the actual 2D animation on top of it seemed like it was, the typical 12 frames of animation per second. So for every 2 frames, only 1 frame of the animation would move, and it would cause like jumpiness to like while like scenes were like moving around, the actual animation was jumping around, and it was really bothering me just on a creative level. But I learned to appreciate it more as it kept going. I learned to like kind of move past that. But I did notice that there were different levels of the animation throughout the film. I don't know if you guys noticed that, but like there were like some scenes that were clearly like money was put into this. Like the faces were really crisp, the animation was fluid, and there were other scenes where like only one character would be moving at a time and everyone else would be stagnant, and it was like the faces were poorly drawn, and I was just like, this is really weird. Did they like run out of scenes? Like,
Oh,
I was very...
Dude, you gotta get back into anime, dude. That's just anime. Anime is like very much so like
but not anime films. Not anime films.
That's
anime
fair.
films. They,
I mean, I'm spoiled by
I would say like
Your Name and Suzume and Miyazaki and all that, but yeah.
But even in like with Your Name, the animation was really good on that, but they also use the same like time saving mechanics in those movies.
I believe it. Yeah,
It's
no, I
like
do.
time and money saving mechanics. Like you're gonna see it in all, obviously like anime films are gonna be a little bit better when it comes to that, but it's still gonna happen. I think I'm
So
so used to watching it. It never really bothered me because I watch a lot of anime.
We'll be back after a quick break.
Do you ever feel like your kids are speaking a foreign language? We did too.
Did you give up on foreign language in high school like we did?
Come to hang out with your slang out, and we can help you translate some of those words that the kids are saying to you. From skibbity to riz, all the way to sigma. We'll cover all the words you want to know and all the words you wish you hadn't asked about.
Consider us your guides and soon-to-be friends who will help you take this journey from YouTube to all your favorite streaming services. This is Dan.
And I'm Matt. And we hope you come hang out
with your slang out.
So what happened for me going into this was up until the point just after Freka died, where, like Helm hits Freka and he dies. Then there was that flashback to when Hera and Wolf were kids, and then that was like really well done. Like I was just like, wait, what just happened? There was like a tonal shift in like the way that this was produced. And moving forward from that point, it seemed like the whole movie was much more fluid and looked a lot better. So I think I kind of got it out of my system, or there was my personal like idea as like what happened there was they made most of the movie, and then they, with whatever budget they had, they did the rest of it or whatever. So I don't know. I just wanted to mention that like I was not a fan originally of the animation style, like the 3D on top, or the 2D on top of the 3D, and then sometimes the 2D was kind of cheap looking, but I got past that because the story was just so captivating, and also there was some really good animation in there too. I don't want to dog on that. That initial jolt put me in a sour mood, but I instantly or like quickly recovered from that. But you mentioned, Rich, that Rohan in the films feels shallow because we really only see a little bit of, the hillside with the Rohirrim and Edoras, which is I guess the capital city of Rohan where the king lives. In this, we get a grander idea of there being, other areas of Rohan and other peoples within it that meet regularly to decide on events or who gets married or whatever.
Yeah.
And I think that that's what you're talking about, where, it does feel like they world built Rohan out tremendously with this movie.
Yeah, I thought it was fantastically done. I wouldn't say I really questioned it beforehand, but I think that watching this then made me reflect back and go, wow, like, where did all those writers of Rohan sleep? Because Edoras just didn't seem that big, right? And we never got the idea that there were other locations in Rohan other than Edoras, and it's not spoilers, so I'm just going to admit this now, all right? I am embarrassed. I am embarrassed to tell you that at the end of the movie, when they say no, Helm's Deep, I went, what? Damn it, I'm an idiot. Like, I just immediately cursed myself for not... Because I remember going, hey, this place looks familiar. I feel like I've seen it before. And then there was a different name, and I go, I guess they have similar seeming places. I didn't know that they could have gone to this place instead of Helm's Deep, but I just kind of kept it in my head. I remember at one point, Charlie and I looked at each other, and we're like, And then at the end of the movie, when it said, we both hit our heads like, you gotta be joking me. I can't believe.
Well, remember, Theoden calls it the Hornburg.
I see. I didn't. That one slipped by me.
Theoden calls it the Hornburg. And I think he's talking about that instance in this movie. Remember when he says that the walls have held against... So I'm wondering if he's talking about like that instance, because I mean, this is a this is a battle in which, like, the fortress has been tested. So I've always like wondered. Now I'm kind of thinking like, I wonder if he's referencing this.
Yeah. So it was surprising seeing I guess the dawn of like how they named Helm's Deep instead of it being also called the Hornburg, because to me it was always Helm's Deep. They do have multiple names for pretty much everything in Lord of the Rings. So it also being called the Hornburg did not faze me in any which way,
Right.
So
yeah.
But it was cool seeing basically everything that we have come to know about Rohan also be referenced in this movie.
Yeah.
And I want to talk about like its actual canonicity to Tolkien's lore. I don't know if you guys have looked it up at all.
I have not in recent days.
I haven't really looked into that.
So it's a really, I think it's crazy actually, because there are aspects that are very canon and there are big aspects that could be canon. Like it's a very confusing thing, because the whole movie we're following a character named Hera, who is Helm Hammerhand's daughter. In Tolkien's lore, she goes unnamed, and in the beginning of the movie, I think the narrator says you do not know her name because she's not sung in any songs or something like that. Like she isn't in the legend or whatever. And yes, they created the name Hera for the character of Helm's daughter. So in the actual lore, all that we know that happens, because remember, this movie exists purely as a footnote to Tolkien's lore. Like he wrote a couple sentences, devised a little bit of backstory for this area, and threw it out into the world. And that kind of that footnote in his Lord of the Rings history is what we're seeing play out. So in the story, we know that Freka comes to Edoras to speak to Helm Hammerhand, and requests that Wolf be taken as his daughter's husband, basically. Yeah, so Freka shows up to the throne room of Helm Hammerhand, and he requests or demands that that Helm's daughter, because she goes unnamed in Tolkien's lore, he requests that Helm's daughter marry his son Wolf. And in Tolkien's lore, Helm, makes a jest that Freka has gone fat, and then Freka makes a jest that Helm is old, and then they take the fight outside, and Helm defeats him with a single punch, killing him. And then sometime later, his son Wolf occupies Rohan. That's the entirety of like what we know from that story, and they use that footnote for the entire movie, which is really, really cool, because they're just like, Helm's daughter, whatever happened to Helm's daughter? We know that, in the siege of Rohan, his two named sons are killed, but we don't know the fate of Hera or, Helm's daughter. And that's what this movie's about. It gives her the name Hera, and we're following her throughout the entire occupation of Rohan. It's really cool.
I think it's one of the only thing that bothers me for some reason is you could have picked any name, and there's no name in any of Tolkien's work that reminds me of any other name other than a name in Tolkien's work, right? Like Sauron and Saruman or whatever. But other than that, like the names are all very distinct, and Hera is the name of a god in Greek mythology, and I just feel like it definitely evoked some stuff before. Like I heard her name was Hera, and I immediately had connections where the first time I heard Bilbo or Frodo or Bombar or Befor or Keely or Feely, they were all distinct. Aragon, all of these names are all distinct except for Tom, I suppose.
I guess not Tom.
His last name, maybe.
Bombadil.
But I just think that the naming was interesting. I wonder if it was meant to evoke anything, if it was kind of meant to kind of delineate her as some sort of kind of godlike mythic heroine, in this kind of epic who does not get sung about. So That's a little bit confounding. I'm probably just harping on the name too much, but that is one thing that stuck out to me, just because it's a very un-Tolkien thing, I think, to have any name that seems similar to any name we've heard of in any other work or in our everyday lives.
Okay, I can understand that criticism. If it means anything, the creative team behind this entire movie, despite it being produced by, Peter Jackson's camp, it was all it was Japanese workers, because it was entirely Japanese production. Like if you stayed for the credits, it was all people from Japan. So I guess the way that they would name things wouldn't, I guess, gel totally with Tolkien's linguistic nature, I guess, because it's an entirely different
Oh, that makes sense. Yeah, that's fair. All right.
language, I guess. So I guess I'm not trying to say that like makes up for that, because I did make the God connection as well, but it didn't bother me because I don't know. But I'm looking through the cast of the movie, and I don't know how I didn't know this, but the actress who played Éowyn, Miranda Otto, is the narrator for the movie.
Chef's kiss.
Oh,
It's beautiful.
I did
I
hear
thought-
that she came back in some sort of capacity. I just didn't look too deep into it.
Yeah, so I thought that they were just trying to emulate the Éowyn character, like for the narration, like just her vocal style. I didn't actually think that they got the actress, but it actually makes sense. Like, why not get the actress for the English translation? So yeah, I thought that was pretty cool. So let's talk a little bit about Hera and some of the history that kind of surrounds her and the shield maidens of Rohan, because they kind of touch on, like, this is a thing of the past, the shield maiden. It's a line of women warriors that after all the men were gone, the woman would take up their shields and defend whoever was left. And there was only one shield maiden left. What's her name? No.
The name just escaped
Alwyn?
me. Alwyn. Oh, Alwyn? No, I believe Alwyn was the kind of advisor that she had.
Oh, no. Yeah, Alwyn. Alwyn was, she was an advisor, but she was the last
Oh, she was
the line of the shield maidens prior. Yeah, Alwyn. So I'm looking at
Do you think there's any relation?
now.
Do you think that
To who?
to
Éowyn?
Éowyn's family?
Oh.
Because I mean, like, I'm not really just like speaking with the way that her name ends is very similar, but there's also the fact that, like, Éowyn has this pride in shield maidens as if it's like a part of her history. So
Yeah.
I'm thinking
There might be something there.
there may be
yeah.
a relation. Yeah.
I did not think of that at all. But that's a really cool connection, if true. We do know that the line of Helm Hammerhand dies. So his kingly lineage dies after that point, and then Hera's cousin. So we don't know how exactly they're connected via blood to Helm's line, but her cousin becomes the first in a second line of kings that I'm assuming leads up to Theoden's day, and I'm guessing that Éowyn. Well, we know that Éowyn is part of that line. So I don't know how much inbreeding goes on in Edoras. I don't know how much. I don't know Olwen's family tree at this point. Like there's no way to like say like, oh yeah, she's definitely not or is attached to that lineage. But I think it's a really cool theory.
So I'm looking at the casting, and who provided some voice talent in this movie?
Striker,
Oh,
baby.
I know what you're gonna say.
Billy Boyd and Dominic Monaghan.
Oh, I was.
Merry
I was
and
gonna say
Pippin.
something else. Yeah, I was gonna say something else, but I thought I heard them on occasion, just for like background characters, right?
Yeah. But it's crazy that like how they like kind of like some of these past Lord of the Rings characters have trickled their way into this one.
Yeah, there's one specific character or actor that shows up that I was not expecting the voice of. You guys probably also weren't, but like when Saruman shows up,
Yeah.
it's actually Christopher Lee's voice used in like posthumous archival recording. I was like, wait, what?
That's crazy.
That was awesome. It was cool to see him, like, because in this movie we do see Isengard and it's being occupied by Wolf's group, so Saruman hasn't established himself there yet, and so it is timely, like with Wolf being defeated. I'm assuming that group kind of disbands and leaves that place. So now here comes Saruman, which at this point I believe like he hasn't been corrupted yet. I think he's like the good wizard that he's supposed to be in that moment.
Right.
And then they also do name drop Gandalf also.
Yes, right at the very end, I feel like, all of these, like, Lord of the Rings adjacent projects have to name drop good old Gans, good old Grand Elf, Gandalf himself.
It's great.
Well, he knows his name this time.
Yeah.
At this time.
He does know his name.
It's amazing that these adjacent movies, as you'll say, right? All they have to do is name drop a couple of the guys, and we're excited, right? Yeah. But Craven comes out, and it's like, oh, gee, no, right? Like,
oh, dude,
or Madam Web, right? Like, it just makes me laugh how for us in these movies, all it takes is a name, and we're like, my Charlie. One of the things he was like, it was really cool at the end the way they said that they were going to go see Gandalf. Like that was one of his favorite parts to retell my wife, right? But when we see these other adjacent movies, we're just like, nah, man, that's trash. Like, Morbius has like the Spider-Man poster, and we're like, come on, you got to do better than that.
At least with this, it's like it's crafted a lot better. The story is better. The characters are a lot better. And it's funny that you bring that up because like I completely forgot to say that I actually did see Craven.
Oh no!
Oh, how was it, dude?
Okay, so like I guess a little break in the pod. I didn't hate it. It wasn't amazing, but it was interesting enough that I would place it between Venom and Madam Web, with Venom being the better Sony project and Madam Web being like completely at the end. Like to me, Craven, it doesn't even touch like that bad.
Let's talk a little bit more. We have eventually we get to a point in the story where Wolf and his army pull the Rohirrim out of Edoras so that Edoras can be ambushed. But Hera, quietly brings everyone over to what's it called? The place?
The Hornburg?
The Hornburg, yes. How Hera brings everyone to the Hornburg. And in that retreat, after Helm realizes that, they've lost because of cunning, both of his sons die. Pretty gruesome deaths.
Yeah.
And then Helm himself gets like shot up with a crazy amount of arrows. But the guy's a beast.
he really is a beast.
Like he went beast mode. Like it may not have been in that scene. Like he goes into like a little brief coma.
Yeah.
In his loft, but
well, he in that moment they said that like he was asleep not because of his injuries, but because he was like distraught. Like he was heartbroken because both of his sons have been killed.
Yeah.
And he witnessed both of those deaths, dude. Like right in front of him. Like
that's tough.
One was an arrow to the neck, and then the other one survives but gets his throat slit. Like it's freaking crazy. Yeah. And it was Hera witnesses that too. Like so.
Yeah.
Like it was really crazy. Yeah. Wolf was like a savage, man.
We get to a point in the story where Helm wakes from his grief coma and basically just starts ripping the people in Wolf's camp limb from limb at night, to the point where like there's just like dozens of people dead that they have like no room to bury, and like they just think it's a ghost.
Yeah.
What are your thoughts on that? Because
they were calling
was
it
he actually like
the Wraith or the White of was it Helm Wraith or something like that?
Yeah,
dude.
Well, it was so
it was
we
so
had
funny.
We had that whole backstory that there were essentially spirits, essentially in some ways that the Hordberg was kind of cursed so that there were like these lost souls that were in there. So I guess we're meant to understand that one of these lost souls may have like incited his anger and fueled him. I mean, he does seem slightly supernatural, and actually
there are moments,
even it seems that his interaction with Hera almost makes him less powerful as it kind of like, if she doesn't show up and stop him, maybe he like takes the whole crew down, but instead it kind of, it's like his humanity brought him back and then made him lose the physical attributes that he had gained during this, because there was no indication earlier that he could rip people limb from limb, and we don't know many people in Middle Earth who physically, other than the Ents, right, and like trolls and goblins, that can tear asunder your arms.
Yeah, well, we do know that like he was able to kill Freka, a very big dude, with a single punch, and he seemed surprised by that. Like it didn't seem like he like was really trying to kill this guy. It was just like, now it's my turn.
Right.
He one punched man, that guy.
Yeah, I mean, even he was like, "There's no way." Like,
I thought that was one of these like weird.
I thought that they were gonna. I don't know. Like, I felt he might have had something going on. He might have been sick, or he had some, or he might have hit him in the temple or something. I don't know. It was.
That's right. I thought it was one of those fluke things, like a Final Destination type like death, where it's like everything lines up, rather perfectly for it to happen. It actually made me think that, I mean, granted, his dad had just died, right? And someone, like, he could see why it happened. But I don't know, man. And maybe I'm being a little bit crude here. And maybe other people will disagree with me. But I don't know. If my dad, like, initiated a fist fight and then, like, just took one on the jaw and was out and died, I'm like, yeah, it's a little on you, Pops. Like, I don't know. Like, I don't know if I could blame the other party as much, unless I knew that he was like juicing or something. I don't know. But if my dad starts a fight with Tyson and Tyson kills him, like, hey, Dad, that's Mike Tyson, man. Like, you're not Big Mac, you're not Little Mac. Like, you gotta calm down.
Yeah, Little Mac.
When Hera finds the secret tunnel behind the chamber that Helm was sleeping in, she occasionally saw glimpses of some spectral figure. Do you think that she was just seeing the backside of Helm as he was walking away, or was she actually seeing some specter that exists within Helm's Deep, the Hornburg?
I don't know, like, or that really massive orc that they kind of stumble upon that kind of looks like him too, like with the horns and stuff. Like, I don't like if you saw him, if you just saw the silhouette, you would think that it was him. What
do you think, Rich? Like, what was your interpretation of that like apparition?
Well, I don't know if I'm supposed to think this, but like, the use of wraith to me is also very particular, right? And I'm unless I'm mistaken, like, the only reference that we have to wraiths being used in Tolkien or even Jackson is the ring wraiths, right? So it immediately made me think of that. I tried to like timeline this out and figure out, like, is this in some way related to one of those wraiths? Like,
well, they also call Celebrimbor and and in those games they call him a wraith too.
Oh, that's right. Okay, all right. So it's the wraith thing. Made me immediately kind of. I really did feel like perhaps that there are these wraiths that are going around Helm's Deep, and that they kind of took over Helm, at some point, and that's what really kind of motivated him. It is
an interesting thought, because we know that Helm's Deep, basically, like, without extreme measures, like, impossible to break into, and yet homie just pried it open with his fingers. Like, I would like to believe that there was other people behind the door trying to like push it open with like the wheel thing, but like they didn't actually show that. Like the last time they showed those people, they had failed in opening the doors, but somehow he did it. So
bro, that was crazy. This man was just like,
yeah, and that's one of those things that that kind of bothered me a little bit, just because it stretches the ceiling of believability in this world, and that's not something I think
nothing in that world is believable, to be honest. Like none of it's real. It's also anime, like dude, they had to throw some shenanigans.
I know they have
okay,
to,
so
they have
that's
to do
maybe
some power scaling.
Because I was about to actually because I do feel like that the one thing that's kind of been established is we don't really have Herculean feats of strength by any what I would call any really of the races other than like the Uruk-hai, right? When they were kind of created, and even then it's kind of limited to, I'd say, the Ents being the far more powerful beings. In this case, Helm could rip the Ents in half, I think, without a problem. So, like, here's my thing. I think, to kind of address what Dakota said earlier, I think that the hit on Fricka was just literally like one of those kismet, like just terrible, like once in a lifetime, like you do it, you swing 1,000 times at a pitch, and like one time you might put a charge in it and hit it out of Yankee Stadium.
No, absolutely, I agree.
But then later he becomes so overpowered that it has to be some sort of supernatural thing, at least for me to jive in this world.
I mean, there's that instance. There's also the thing of adrenaline. I mean, this instance, it can kind of be, whatever. But I mean, the fact that people have literally been able to lift cars off of people because of the surge of adrenaline that they have. I mean, I don't mean over their head, but like literally be able to like lift enough to like get somebody. And how like vehicles are they could be super heavy. I mean, I'm pretty sure those doors are a lot heavier, but like, maybe the moment, the adrenaline, I mean, maybe he could have been half dead, half alive. I don't know, but that moment was actually really cool. Like after that, where he just like really threw down, and he threw down on it, and he didn't even die like from them. He died by freezing.
Yeah. So I'm actually looking at the actual Lord of the Rings wiki, and it does suggest that is something that was part of the lore, like that Tolkien wrote. His body was discovered the next morning after battling many people, frozen in the snow while still standing. Like he was still ready to fight. So that's actually something that like Tolkien wrote into the myth of this character. So yeah, the guy was just an absolute legend.
Dude, you want to hear something funny? Was that I went to the movie and I saw it with some friends, and my friend also got like the popcorn bucket, and in that moment where it showed him like frozen with just like outside the gate, both my friend and I took the hammer and we like lifted it up into the at the same time. We didn't even like plan it in that moment. We just like, for some reason, that moment we both had like a shared brain cell moment, and we were just like,
you're both quantum computing at the same time. Yeah, dude, Helm Hammerhand was a unit, like an absolute unit.
Yeah. No, I liked him though. He was voiced by Brian Cox.
Yes. Oh yeah. I mean, man, like I thought he brought so much to it. He's got such a great voice, and he can sound, what I think is amazing. I hate him as Stryker in the X-Men franchise, in the Fox X-Men franchise, but like here, I just thought he worked so well. Who do we have as
in that setting? Yeah.
Who do we have as Odin? Silence of the Lambs. Anthony Hopkins, right? And he's great there, and he brings like a gravitas to the role. But I thought that Brian Cox was really great. Just all kudos to him. It's weird because I was able to identify him, but then by the end I felt like that's Helm. Like I wasn't saying that's Stryker anymore, Okay. Testament to him, I think.
It was really cool, and like you had to really make that character spectacular for it to be like, it's like this place was named after him. Helm's Deep was named after this individual, and now I'm a believer, bro. I was like, yeah, this guy deserved this place had to be named after this guy, because this guy was just straight up beasting. This man took arrows, few days later was thrown down on a bunch of guys in front of this gate, like, and then froze overnight. It's just,
Yeah.
that was the only thing that could stop him was the weather. Like, that was insane. Like, and like, for an older guy, he was like jacked. He was big time, like muscular. Something that I really, really liked about this movie, and it is the incorporation of the eagles, and the fact that when Hera went up to the eagle's nest to speak with the eagle, that she said that she had heard that the eagles can understand their language. And I thought that was interesting. Like, I thought that was really cool, because we always thought of eagles as like, just like kind of these animals, but in Lord of the Rings, they're actually so much more. They're these beings that kind of transcend. It's not like a deer in the field or anything. Like, these are like almost not really celestial, but they hold a high place and like a hierarchy, So the fact that, like, she said that, the eagles have their own language, and the fact that Gandalf could actually speak to eagles, I thought that was cool. That they kind of elaborated a little bit more on that.
Yeah, they did a really good job in a number of aspects of just expanding what we know about the lore and coloring in aspects of the lore that the average fan, just, like the movie viewers, wouldn't normally know. And I always appreciate when movies have that ability to do that. And you don't need to take all that, like, from the movie. It could just be a cool thing that happens in the movie. But if you're actually, trying to logically incorporate this into the Lord of the Rings trilogy and maybe the Rings of Power somehow, you can kind of piece it together a little bit. Okay, this happens here. This makes sense because of this. Another thing that they were trying to slowly incorporate was that there was the introduction of a couple orc characters that were picking the rings off of the dead bodies that Helm was ripping apart, saying that somebody was looking for rings. And I was just like, ooh. Okay, all right. So cool. the hunt for the ring is currently on 183 years before the Fellowship of the Ring. So that's sick.
Yeah.
Like, it's been going on for a long time.
I thought that was really cool.
And that also, that also kind of ties in with what you were saying about the eagles, because through the eagles, who got in contact with Gandalf got in contact with Hera and said, I'd like to know more about the rings that these orcs were talking about.
Oh, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So this all connects, and I don't know if there's like a grander story that they're trying to tell in like a sequel or whatever, but I do like the setup for more stories with Hera. Her story does not end with this movie, and there's potentially more to come if people want to watch it.
I also like that they finally gave the name the Mumakil. In Lord of the Rings, the movies, they call them Oliphants, but like their actual name is Mumakil. And the way I knew that was because I had played Battle for Middle Earth, and that's what they called them in that game. So like that's how I came to understand that that's what their name. So like the fact that they had them in there, and they had this like kind of connection with like the Haradrim, right?
Yeah, so one thing that the movies did not portray well, and I think this is a common criticism, is that they seem to combine the Southron, the Haradrim, and the Easterlings into one group. And stylistically, they all look the same, and they kind of all appear at the same time. So there's no real way to, differentiate the Easterlings from the Southron. In this movie, they're very specifically talking about people from the south coming into Rohan. They're the Southron. They're the Haradrim that come with the Mumakil. And on that point, something in the beginning of the movie, or near the beginning of the movie, that like some of the cattle has been like dying of this like crazy plague. And like then we see a crazed Oliphant or Mumakil.
Yeah.
Do we ever learn why they were going crazy? Was that ever addressed, or was that just like something that happens?
I don't remember if that was addressed But I
Could it be that they were like poisons so as to like draw Hera out of Edoras to be captured by Wolf? Because it seemed like that was an intentional thing to like capture Hera.
Yeah. Maybe they had. And they didn't really elaborate, but like remember after that moment with Freka that Hera wasn't really allowed to leave without a party, and so maybe I don't know, like they were doing stuff to like kind of break up that group, and ended up happening. That moment was really crazy with the Muma kill when they go into the forest. Like at first when he said that, like, you know, when she was gonna go into the forest and they were like, you know, that place is dangerous. I thought she was going into Fangorn, and he was talking about the Ents, right?
Yep.
And no, it's something far more scary than a freaking Ent, dude.
Yeah, it was a Watcher in the water, and
dude, that was crazy though. It had like that little island on its head, like almost to like kind of lure people or something.
Yeah,
dude, that was crazy.
Was really cool.
And like that thing swallowed the Mumakil like whole. And I'm thinking about like the mass, like, you know, the anime doesn't really like show like how massive they are, but like in the movies they're like pretty big, right? So
yeah,
imagine like something like that getting swallowed by that, unless it was like a smaller one.
It still only counts.
Maybe
as
it was
one.
a smaller one. What happened?
It still only counts as one. So I mean, big or small.
That's a good point. Yeah, but what I like what you're saying. I think they don't show us the full size of the Watcher in the water, because it's kind of like an iceberg, you know, you're only seeing the tip of this giant beast. So to be able to swallow that whole, got to be a big creature.
That's true.
But
and like what we saw was already like pretty massive. So
Rich, what did you think of the relationship between Hera and Wolf? Because it kind of evolves over the course of the movie as something, you know, it's two friends that have kind of like gone astray over time because of a mistake in childhood to, you know, I'm going to kill all your family and you're going to watch. Like, what are your thoughts on that relationship?
I kind of, see, I don't know. I think I find it believable in the way that his dad seems like such a misogynistic jerk that I could see like him being a well-reasoned, you know, preteen, whatever, and then kind of just being surrounded by his father's ideologies and sitting there and kind of absorbing so much that he starts to believe that, you know, he deserves to marry her because he believes in the system, and this is what he's promised, and he will not be denied. I guess it's not far off for me to believe that people can be filled with misinformation and mayhaps act in a absurd manner. Maybe 20 years ago I wouldn't have believed it as much, but now it's easier to kind of believe that it would happen. So it's weird, but I didn't actually think it was that odd of a narrative jump. Maybe it's because also I watch, you know, Game of Thrones, where the male characters are very much emboldened by the world they live in and do operate in these ways that are essentially unquestioned. So although we don't see this normally in Lord of the Rings, medievally, I would say, I don't think that's a word. I'm just making stuff up. But in like a medieval sense, in terms of like style of government and things, the way things work, it did seem like something that a pig-headed misogynist would ascribe to.
Anthony, what did you think of that?
It was interesting, you know, like it's these childhood friends. Seemingly they were close when they were young, but there was like that long stretch of time that they weren't together. So I can imagine that maybe some sort of resentment was grown in that period of time, that, you know, when she like rejected him, I feel like that, like the death of his father was kind of like the straw that broke the camel's back. And he kind of like took all that frustration. He's like, well, you know what? I'm going to kill everything you love.
Yeah. I thought his character was really compelling because you didn't really fully understand his motives. And I don't think anyone really understood his motives, including him. You know, I think that he was operating on revenge the entire time. And I believe that a good portion of the lords of Rohan that like joined up with him, like Lord Thorne, truly believed that he had a plan to change the way this society was structured. He had an idea of like how to change things, and overall was would have been a powerful leader, bringing them to new prosperity or whatever they didn't receive with Helm Hammerhead. So I understood that, but I really liked the relationship. Not that I liked it, but I thought it was really compelling, the relationship between Lord Thorne and who was basically advising Wolf, the would-be king, for most of the movie until at the very end he's like, dude, what are you doing? Like, everything I tell you to do, you just do the exact opposite and make everything worse. And it's clear that Wolf just wants revenge. Like, he just wants to make the people that hurt him hurt back.
Yeah. You have Hera and the Ents fighting him in that wedding dress. Like, oh, he wants a wife. I'm gonna give him one right now.
Hera was so cool. Hera was just, she was such a badass. Like, everything that she did was just like, that's a leader. That's a leader.
Yeah.
That's, like, she embodied that Éowyn archetype that, I could picture Éowyn reading about and hearing songs about.
Yeah.
Picking up and, embodying that role for herself. So I loved Hera as a character. I thought she had a cool design. A lot of the designs in this film were really cool.
Yeah, I agree. Kind of like just a quick observation. So, we remember that like secret cave that they go through when Aragorn asks Theoden if there's a way for the women and children to leave. Do you think that that's the place that he was thinking of?
I did think about it. Yeah, I don't know. Because I don't know the answer to that. I'd have to look into it.
I mean, because they say that there's like a passage that leads into the mountains, and I mean that's technically into the mountains. So
yeah, it could be. It could be.
I mean, yeah. I mean, there might have been another passage, but like that was like the only one that we've really seen. So
what I will say about that, I thought about that as well. It just seemed like a different design, and like. Because everything that we saw within Helm's Deep was designed from like footage from the movies. Like everywhere that we saw that people were occupying space seemed to be kind of taken and adapted from the films. So it was interesting that I didn't feel any like natural resemblance to the films in that secret tunnel. So, I mean, it could be. It could very well be. I don't know. And it probably is. That's probably the intent, that it was supposed to be that tunnel that they, could escape in. But I didn't get that after thinking about it for a little bit.
Food for thought.
Rich, any last thoughts on Lord of the Rings, The War of the Rohirrim?
Despite the kind of epic fail of the IMAX experience, I ended up really liking this film. Which says a lot because, I had to watch about an hour worth of previews before I got into the movie. But I really enjoyed it. I mean, I had a good time. I will say that I don't know if I walked out with the same feeling. I mean, this might just be unfair, right? Because I'm kind of comparing anime to a movie, right? Like, I remember the feeling of just kind of epicness that washed over me when I walked out of the theaters, and maybe it's because I was in my 20s and I wanted a sword and a horse the minute I walked out of the theater, but I didn't. It was like, wow, that was really nice. I really enjoyed that, but I don't think I walked out like, oh my god, the way I did with the original Peter Jackson films. I am looking forward to see if they do continue it. I wish that there was more attention brought to it. I don't understand why this seemed under. I mean, I know I was targeted, but I just don't feel like there was a level of promotion. I didn't see anything about, let's say, Brian Cox being on late night TV to promote it, or Erwin, or any of the voice. It just, for such a large epic franchise, I just feel like it was really undersold, and it leaves me wondering why, but I still want more of it.
It is also interesting that you bring that up because they clearly do want to continue Lord of the Rings as a franchise. I think they have announced that there's going to be like 2 films that feature Gollum in live action, and potentially more films that, you know, they want to tell in that universe. So, and it does seem, you know, based on like conversations that we've had in the past couple of podcasts, that they are trying to bridge some stylistic crossovers between Rings of Power and Lord of the Rings, the Peter Jackson films. So that, you know, the book is open, so to speak. Like the Lord of the Tolkien appendixes are open, and they clearly want to tell more of these stories. So it'll be interesting to see how that works out. As for me, I feel like while I wasn't underwhelmed, I didn't feel like there was like an overwhelming... I don't think that you were disappointed, but you weren't like overwhelmingly positive or like reactionary upon leaving the theater. I didn't get that either, but I didn't think I was going to, just because, again, this is a movie built around a couple footnotes of Tolkien's lore, you know, like those. Fair. And those are movies that are like the biggest epic fantasy to ever epic fantasy. So
yeah, that's an unfair barometer, I suppose.
It is a little unfair, but I did find that I loved it by the end. I really thought it was a really phenomenal story, a cool way to tell it too. I still am confused as to why they would make, you know, like the background a higher frame rate than the animation itself was. That's gonna bother me, and you know, forever. But because it does make the characters look like they're jumping a little bit on top of the background. But overall, I really enjoyed it. Anthony, what are your thoughts?
I enjoyed it, man. You know, as the resident anime watcher of the group, I really enjoyed it. I liked the entertainment choice that they used, or the media choice that they used to tell the story. It was interesting, and you know, in a way, like, it wasn't something that we asked for, but we got it anyway. But we ended up leaving like satisfied. You know, it's not going to be anything like the trilogy, but to me it still served a really good purpose, and it expanded a lot that I was very appreciative of, you know.
I don't think I knew, kind of like what Rich was saying at the beginning of the show, Rohan seemed like a very small city.
Right.
And now I understand Rohan is a realm. I mean, I understood that Rohan was a realm. It was more than just that city. But now I understand that Edoras is just a small part of Rohan, and that's just where like the king and his immediate, like, the noble families there live. So
right.
I think that is like one of the things that it really expanded on for me, and I appreciated that, you know, just learning a little bit more about that. But
the larger scope, yeah. And I mean, I enjoyed it. I feel like the people of like Rohan and like the way that they live their lives and kind of conduct themselves, I think that they're like my favorite people of the Lord of the Rings like world, as far as like the humans.
Yeah, no, totally. I think that, and that's another thing. Like I'm hoping to see more of with future installments of the Rings of Power. I want to see more humans than just like the random tribes of Southlanders that, you know, now currently exist like just outside of Mordor, as well as the Númenóreans who are, you know, just battling across the sea. I want to see like actual, you know, big races of humans, either in Gondor or Rohan, if those places even exist yet. So I guess we'll find out more of that in a season 3. Rich, thanks again for joining us on this episode, and thank you, listeners, for listening to us here for our 104th episode of Project Geekology. If you'd like to check out any of our shows or socials, you'll find links to everything that we are involved with in the show notes down below. And next week, I believe, Anthony, we're thinking deeply about, you know, returning to our cursed podcast, the Harry Potter and the Prisoner of Azkaban. We recorded this like twice already, and it just keeps not working out. So we're gonna try it a third time. Third Harry Potter film, third time. And Rich, you're welcome to join us as always if you're available.
I will jump into the Flu Powder Network to join you guys next week.
That's wonderful. Just stay out of trouble, stay out of Azkaban.
Stay out of Nocturne Alley.
Yeah. Guys, if you have the option on whatever podcast application that you're listening to to give us a review of the podcast. We require, I think it's 6 stars. Is it a 6?
I mean, if you can put 6 stars, put 6 stars, okay?
Yeah.
If you can put 10, put 10. But usually the max is 5. And, you know, I don't know if you can hear that sizzle. I can in my mind. But we need that juicy 5-star review.
Like a fajita sizzle? Like,
you know, yeah. Like when you're in Chili's and they bring out the fajitas and you hear like the thing sizzling, the plate sizzling.
And then everyone in the restaurant smells like onions for the rest of the night. Yeah, it's a wonderful sensation, guys. We need that 5-star juicy sizzling review in your podcast app right this moment, please. We beg of you. All right, guys. Thanks. See you next week.
All right, y'all. Bye.
The Wolverine.